What are you afraid of? What are you fearful of? I am Wimbo77, one thing about history.com. When I asked you that question, are you fearful? I was thinking more about the biochemical reaction that we have to being in fear. Now, when the world started, as they say, men were hunters and gatherers, and they perhaps feared the thought of being mauled by some ravaged beast, right? Or going out and being killed by something, right? The women, they were in fear of being kidnapped by some brute who was going to steal them away from their husbands and drag them off by their hair into a cave somewhere, and that would be the end of that, right? But we know we didn't all live in caves. That's a whole different other story, right? However, that's being fearful. It's a natural fight or flight kind of reaction. Now, being afraid, on the other hand, is something to the fact of we're afraid of maybe upsetting someone, or we're afraid of the unknown, or we're afraid of, of ourselves, who knows. But being afraid and fearful, although they fall into the same category, they are more or less two different things. So, there are 6 points of fear that Napoleon Hill highlighted. That's the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of the loss of a loved one, the fear of old age, and the fear of death, right? Now, let's take the first level of fear, the fear of poverty. Now, poverty, okay, if we have a mindset that is focused on poverty or having a lack of anything, then because our focus is there, we will stay within that kind of mindset, okay? So fear of poverty, we work against ourselves, right? So if we don't want to be that way, we've got to work in line with not having nothing, not having a mind of having a lack of anything, but really putting it out to the universe, knowing that it will provide for us, but we've got to work in harmony with that. Now, the next fear is criticism. None of us like to be criticized, right? And the thing is, criticism, it can be negative, it can be positive, right? However, we've spoken about this many times, that people have their say, they can say whatever they want to say. And sometimes the reason why someone will criticize us is because they themselves aren't even stepping up to the plate and doing the things maybe that they see you doing. And that's what makes the difference, really. So we can't worry about what people are going to say about us. We can only just be ourselves and get on and do the things that we set out to do, right? Of course, there's going to become critics. They have them all the time. Critics in music, critics for plays, critics for whatever's. But what we've got to remember is allow the people to criticise and get on, because that means that's just where they're going to stay. And when you're living in your nice big penthouse somewhere, those ones that were criticising you, they'll still be thinking of you, but you won't be thinking of them, right? So you can't fear it. It's just one of those things. Let people have their say, but you get on and do what you have to do. Now, the next one is that fear of ill health. Now, again, it's where our focus is. If we're going to focus on ill health, then obviously that's where it's going to take us. Remember, the manifestation, like we spoke of before, we only get back what we put out. So if we do want to have good, healthy lifestyles, that's one part or a focus that will help us to maintain a good, healthy balance, right? So eating healthily, exercising regularly, having a good mind, that we are going to remain in good health, right? And the thing is, you know, that we spoke last week, didn't we, about the 4 aspects of our lives. That was the emotion, that was our mind, that was our body, and that was our energy, right? So whatever we put out, we get back. So don't remain in a negative mindset. We always want to elevate, right? Now this next one is a clincher. The loss of a loved one or someone that we're maybe in a relationship with. Now we know when it comes to maybe losing someone in death, that's something totally different. And we go through a grieving process in order to, we never forget that person. They'll always be in our hearts. They'll always be in our minds, and we'll think of them regularly. But sometimes we hold on to things that are no good for us. Now we know that in order to change, we have to change, right? And change is not the easiest thing. Change is not the easiest thing at all. So if we're hanging on perhaps to a relationship that doesn't serve us well, that's in love, that's in business, that's in life, if we're holding on to things that don't serve us well, then we are only going to be impacted by that. But because we fear maybe hurting the person, we fear maybe being alone, fear, we'll stay in something that's not good for us. It's not good for our mental health. It's not good for our health. Talking about that out there, you know, and it doesn't bode us well, right? So that is another fear of losing someone. But then before you met that person, you might have been in another situation and you got through that, right? So what's the difference? It's maybe starting over is frightening. Maybe you've built a big life together, but sometimes we do have to let things go. Now, the fear of getting old. Yes, we're all going to get old. I'm in my 50th year. I never thought that I would get here, but lo and behold, here I am. And, you know, it's all a matter of embracing who we are. So we embrace it. We embrace it and say, okay, why am I going to be fearful of this? Purely because, you know, live each day brilliantly, live each day sharing and caring, and, you know, I have so much to look forward to in that sense, and I'm going to grow old quite gracefully and go out happily. So, you know, if it's going to happen now, maybe, or if I live to 150 or 500 years old, you know, we're all going to get old, all right? Every day we're a bit older, but what's the point of being fearful about that? All right, we can prepare for it, all right? But, you know, it's going to happen to the best of us. Now, the last one is that fear of death. Now, in some instances, we have no control over the loss of life, okay? So we can't really concentrate too much on dying. You know, a lot of us can prepare for it. We can have a future plan and all that kind of stuff. But we are all, sadly, going to die at some point. You know, let's hope that we do have a long life, you know, and we enjoy the moments in life, because life is there to be lived. Life is there to be enjoyed. And so many of us stay in that fear that we just don't enjoy it. So guys, fear of poverty, well, we know that we got to work in line. If we're working towards our purpose, then the universe will give us back what we ask for. Okay, so there were those 6 fears that we looked at: the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of losing a loved one, the fear of growing old, the fear of dying, right? All these things, if we concentrate too much on it, they're going to make us ill, all right? It just covers some of the things that we've spoken about. So don't live in that fear, but live in the moment, live in the grace, live in the light, that life is awesome and it's there to be lived. All right, so don't live it in fear. And I know it's easier said than done, but we can do this. I am Wimbo77, onethingabouthistory.com. And like I said, if you like this video, please hit that link below and subscribe and like. And also, if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, feel free to hit me up in the link below. You can write a little comment there and I will tackle your questions. Now you take care. See y'all on the other side.